Welcome back to the Writer's Block, our weekly look at all things sports. I'm Jenny Carlson here in the newsroom at the Oklahoman, joined by Cedric Golden in the newsroom of the Austin American-Statesman. Hello, my friend.
What's going on today, Jen?
Hey, we're just trying to stay a little high and dry here in Oklahoma. We'll see what we can do for the next 20 minutes or so. I think we'll be all right. But I don't know about the Warriors. Cedric, let's lead off with the lead. Let's look at that NBA Finals. It's now 2-1 Toronto. Who you got winning this thing now? This is kind of an unexpected result.
It really is. No one saw Klay Thompson getting hurt, and the Splash Brothers have been reduced to a Splash Brother. And Steph Curry, is great as he is, he can't do it by himself. I think Klay Thompson's probably going to be ready for Game 4, and if he can give them 80% of what he usually gives them, I still have Golden State winning the series. Kevin Durant, people are rumblings that he may play. I've told you before, I just don't know that he's ever going to play for Golden State again. He's there for support, but he's not doing 3-on-3 yet, and he's not running up and down a basketball court. And we know he's probably not in basketball shape anymore. He's been about a month since he got hurt. So I think if Klay Thompson doesn't come back in this next game, Golden State's probably going to lose, and they're going to lose this series. But if he comes back, I still have the Warriors winning in 7.
Yeah, it's been very interesting, the drama of this series with Golden State. Now, let's say, around the basketball world, I don't know if a lot of people are crying for the Warriors and Steve Kerr only having Steph Curry and Draymond Green. And DeMarcus Cousins, obviously, although he doesn't look to be in great basketball shape yet either, it's hard to get thrown into a series, where guys are playing at a high level, and obviously the challenge being what it is. But, I'm with you, Cedric. I mean, I think it is really going to be a challenging series for the Warriors because, I think it has been said that, if Durant is able to practice, it's basically, a practice or shoot around and then he's go, which, I'm sure he will have an impact even if that is the case, but it's still a lot to ask of a guy who hasn't been shooting, with his normal form. He hasn't been running. He hasn't been in contact situations. So how does that look? How does he perform? I'm sure he will help those other able-bodied 100% go guys just by drawing defenses and doing some things that, a guy like a Sean Livingston or whomever, Andre Iguodala, wouldn't necessarily command that kind of attention. And yet, I wonder, Cedric, when you look at this series with all these Warriors being hurt, where the Raptors are, is this a little bit of a pull back the curtain on Steph Curry? How good is Steph Curry? He's always had some other pieces. I know, as I said, Draymond's still available in that rotation. He's got some other guys available to him, but how much is this on Steph Curry at this point to really show just how great he is?
It's all on him right now, and boy, he put on a show, Jen, in Game 3 with 47 points, 25 at the half. He just as good as people think he is, and he's probably one of the most underrated finishers at the bucket that's ever played the game. He's not a huge guy, but he gets in there and among the trees, and he can finish. So he knows that it's on him. And the true measure of greatness is what do you do when the chips are down? And the chips are down for Golden State. Yeah. That's a walking mash unit, Jen. Andre Iguodala's banged up. Clay's hurt. Durant's hurt. Kevon Looney's probably out for the series with a collarbone injury. So those guys are all hurt. And what you have here is kind of a culmination of what happens when you're in the finals every year. That sometimes comes back to catch up with you. More than 82 games. You're talking about another 28 to 30 playoff games. So that's a lot. Well, probably, if you're not sweeping people. So I think that Steph Curry has shown that he's an all-time great based on what he's done. I think Draymond Green's having a hell of a series. They don't have enough horses right now. You get Klay back, it's a series. If you don't get Klay back, you don't get Durant back, they're going to be celebrating. We're going to have to suffer through Drake dancing in Jurassic Park. Maybe one of those dinosaurs will step on him.
Well, I think that it is likely to swing the Raptors' way if we don't see some of those all-stars come back for the Warriors. It's interesting you mentioned Steph as an all-time great, and he'll have all these championships, and even if he stopped now, he's got multiple championships. Has not been a Finals MVP. If they win, it's likely he would be, since he's carried such a load. But he has changed the game in so many ways. And Cedric, you're right. I mean, he's a great finisher. He's got so many skills, and it kind of gets overshadowed by his three-point ability. But a smaller guy who shoots it like he does has really been transformational in all of basketball. I mean, we're starting to see this first generation of Steph disciples, if you will. Trae Young pops to mind from right here in our neck of the woods, a smaller guy who's a great ball handler, but has that three-point range. I think we're going to start to see more and more guys that fit that Steph mold, but I will say, right now, I have a hard time picking against Toronto in this one. It's just, and I think it's going to be so interesting to see how does this change the free agent landscape. I mean, I think we already knew this was going to be a huge summer. Where does Durant go? Is Kawhi leaving? This talk that sprung up that Kawhi has bought some sort of residence in Toronto. Does that mean he's staying? Does that mean he just likes Toronto? He wants an off-season home? I don't know. But if he wins in Toronto, does that mean Kawhi stays in Toronto? It seems like it's pointing that way, Ced.
I don't know, man. If I had to pick, Jen, I'd go Kawhi loves Toronto. He wins in Toronto. Kawhi really loves L.A., though. Kawhi's from L.A.
Yeah.
The weather is better in L.A. than Toronto. Toronto is the coolest city in Canada. Not even close. But when you look at a 26-year-old, 27-year-old kid with all the money in the world, he should be able to pick where he wants to play. And it'll be tougher to leave Toronto after a championship. He'd get the Finals MVP. Could you imagine if that happened? He wins the championship and then he leaves.
Yep.
You think his name is dirt in San Antonio. Imagine what happens when he crosses the border again. That would be really, really tough. The guess here is that he's going to go to L.A. and maybe take those bullets. That'll be an interesting story if he does.
Very interesting. And he's a guy that's been very insulated from a lot of the noise, the media, the social media. He doesn't really do that stuff. So maybe he can withstand it better than others. But fascinating. This Finals is fascinating. What's coming up is fascinating. NBA is going to dominate a lot of our offseason talk, I think, in these coming weeks and months. So lots more to come. All right, let's go to segment 2, Cedric, and we're calling it Them's Fighting Words. Tennis is happening right now. Majors, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer meeting in the quarterfinals of the French Open, which is going on right now. One of the great rivalries. Got us thinking about rivalries in sports. And these two guys, because of how long they've been able to stay not only in professional tennis, but great in professional tennis, it's just built that rivalry even more. But get you thinking about other tennis rivalries, other sport rivalries, boxing. I mean, where do these two rank, though, in your mind, this Nadal-Federer rivalry?
I think Rafa is up 23-15, and he kind of owns them on clay. But overall, it's been a really good rivalry. It's the second best rivalry in tennis history. The first being Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova. They got after it for almost 2 decades. Chrissy owned Martina early, and then Martina got into shape with Nancy Lieberman and turned the tables. And we're talking French Open. I'll never forget that memorable French Open when Chris Evert beat Martina after she hadn't beaten her in a long time. So America rejoiced. But it also reminds me, Ali Frazier was a great boxing rivalry back in the day, and Bob Arum, Don King, promoter rivalry. Looking at other sports, the one that really, my favorite rivalry of all time, Jen, is Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. That's my favorite. That is my favorite one. So that's the one that I would probably put at the top of the list.
Yeah, it's, and Magic and Bird, to me, Cedric, the reason that I love that one too is, you've got sort of the the opposites in terms of the cities, Boston and LA, the sort of, East Coast, hardworking city, and LA, all of the flash and the glam and the glitz. And those two guys, Magic was very outgoing and his game was very, sort of flamboyant. And then you had Bird, who was much more understated, great player in his own right, but just had that sort of, understated nature, blue-collar nature to him, the Indiana guy. So I love that. We started doing a couple years ago for the Thunder when they got into the playoffs and some other, different times that this would come up. We would do rivalry rankings for the Thunder. What franchises are they most, rivals of? And it's actually changed over the years. For a while, the Thunder and the Grizzlies had these great playoff series, and it was every time they meet, somebody'd be, talking about going out to the bus and fighting after the game. And, just great drama. Now you've got obviously Durant in Golden State and how that rivalry is kicked up. Harden in Houston. Just great. Rivalries to me, Cedric, are one of the great things about sports. You and I have gotten to see up close and personal one of the ultimate team rivalries in OU Texas or Texas OU, depending on which side of the state line you're on. But, just great rivalries. And, OU Texas, there may not be a better one because of just the back and forth between those two. Anytime they play, it's great stuff.
Yeah, and I'm so blessed. We're both blessed to have witnessed a lot of those games in Dallas, and now that the Big 12 is having all the teams qualify for the Big 12 championship, not doing a north-south, it increases the chances of them playing twice, which I think is cool. Anytime you can get those two guys in the same building, it's going to be raucous, and it was at Jerry World. Right now, they're the two best programs in the Big 12 and probably the two best teams. So hopefully we will reconvene in Dallas once again and make it a twofer. That never gets old to me.
No, me either. And I know that, with the dissolving of the old, or the sort of like the long-standing Big 12, we've seen some rivalries disappear. Obviously the Missouri-Kansas basketball rivalry that was, has run so high over the years. We haven't seen that matchup. Texas A&M, Cedric, down in your neck of the woods. I know that's always an ongoing conversation. Oklahoma and Nebraska are going to renew their football rivalry in a few years, but that Texas A&M, Cedric, it hasn't happened in football yet, but the powers that be have been working to get other sports together, whether it's NCAA tournaments or different things like that. The Texas A&M thing, anytime they play nowadays, it's got to just sort of infuse people with the passion of that rivalry again.
It's going to happen, and it's going to happen in the Cotton Bowl next season. They're both going to go 9-4, and they're going to both end up at Jerry World, and Texas is probably going to get to play 3 games or get to play 2 games in Jerry World. I think it'll be Texas OU again for the Big 12 marbles. So I think that would be great. They would fill that place up. The athletic directors have not been on the same page, and both of these teams have schedules that go up non-conference wise to around 2030. So you could probably cancel out one of those games. I know Del Conte, the Texas AD, reached out to the former A&M AD Woodward and said we have a slot, and I think it was in like 2022 or something like that, and A&M declined. So hopefully maybe a bowl game will get them together. I know if I'm on that selection committee, these rivals in the same building, because we both know, Jen, college football is about tradition. It's about rivalries. It's about Auburn, Alabama. It's about Oklahoma, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas A&M. The game is a lot more fun when the big dogs are going after the team that they hate the most.
Yeah. Well, if they play in the Cotton Bowl, we're coming back and saying, you heard it here first. Cedric predicting it the first week of June, for crying out loud. By the way, that would be fantastic. The Cotton Bowl would never have to, they wouldn't even probably be able to open up ticket sales. They'd be gone so fast. It'd be unbelievable if that happened. So I am definitely on board with that. All right, let's move on to segment 3 this week. We are going with Say What? because this week, Cedric, you heard about Le'Veon Bell, the fantastic running back who sat out last year in Pittsburgh, now with the Jets, said he picked the Jets because he wanted to play for a team that could win a Super Bowl, that could contend. That was his priority in this whole thing. But last year, he was with a bunch in Pittsburgh that was pretty darn good, and he didn't play. Is this just hypocritical, or is he just a little kooky?
It's hypocritical. Let's call it what it is. He was with Big Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown, two all-time greats at their position, and Juju Smith-Schuster, one of the best young receivers in the game, and one of the best offensive lines in all of football. So it was set up for him to play for a Super Bowl last year in Pittsburgh, but he held out because he wanted more money. I'm fine with that. I understand that. Le'Veon Bell is one of the hardest working backs in the game, but don't go to the New York Jets and try to tell us that you're there to win a Super Bowl. No, you're not. You're in the same division with the Patriots. You're not about to win a Super Bowl with the Jets. You would have had a better chance sticking around in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Call it what it is. You went to the Jets because your marriage with Pittsburgh dissolved over money. It turns out that you didn't get the money that you would have gotten in Pittsburgh. You getting about the same money, but a little bit more guaranteed with the Jets. And now you're with a crappy ball club. They're gonna run you into the ground. Your best receiver is not named Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
His name is Robbie Anderson. That's how bad things have gotten for you on that side of the ball. The Jets are, as long as the division alignments are the same, the New York Jets aren't going to win the AFC East, because guess what? There's a team from Foxborough. They have to play them twice every season.
Yeah.
So it's a bad division, but you're going to lose to the New England Patriots every year. And so Le'Veon Bell, as good as he is, don't try to give us that noise, because we're not buying it.
Yeah.
You went to the Jets because you didn't get the money you wanted in Pittsburgh, and you had to leave to save face. Don't call it a Super Bowl decision.
Yeah.
No, Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City to go to Golden State to win NBA championships. That's the truth. Yeah. That wasn't a money decision. That was a ring decision. Yeah. You left because of money. Two different things.
Yeah. If he wants to go win a Super Bowl, go sign with the Patriots. Go sign with Robo-Tom. You'll have a much better chance to do that. Now, they wouldn't have paid him, I'm sure, what the Jets would. I mean, they know what kind of issues, he's had with previous teams. And you know what? If it didn't work out in Pittsburgh, that's fine. I mean, Cedric, you've made the comment today and previously that, guys that are talented in pro sports deserve a chance to decide where they want to play and where they don't want to play, for that matter. So if, Le'Veon Bell, it didn't work out in Pittsburgh, he wanted to play somewhere else, I'm totally okay with that. But just to, basically revise history, it just seems ridiculous, because there are a lot of teams that, potentially are in the Super Bowl mix that I'm sure would be benefit by a player of Bell's stature going to play for them in the backfield. But I don't think the Jets are in anybody's early season or off-season line to the Super Bowl. It might happen. I mean, we've seen crazy things happen in the NFL. Maybe that's the outcropping of the parity that we see in the NFL, is guys think they can go anywhere and potentially win a Super Bowl. Maybe that's one of the good things that Roger Goodell has done, set up a league where occasionally a team does come out of the blue. But I'm much more on board with your prediction that Texas and Texas A&M play in the Cotton Bowl than if you tell me the Jets are going to play in the Super Bowl, Cedric. You're not going to tell me that, are you?
Well, no, I'm not. Now, and I'm an NFL historian, so who knows? The Jets may play in a Super Bowl. After all, it's only been 50 years since they played in one. So who's to say? We might be 100 by the time they get another shot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it is.
Yeah. I don't see them playing the Super Bowl this year. Le'Veon Bell's comments notwithstanding anything in that regard. Okay, my say what this week is the NCAA. They've made some changes to basketball rules, including moving of the three-point line, now going out to 22 feet 1 3/4 inches, a longer shot. That the NBA or the NCAA had a line that was similar to the high school. Now it's getting a little bit closer to the NBA. But Cedric, I mean, I like this from the standpoint of pulling shooters out from the lane. I think a lot of times in the college level, you see it just becomes a lot of, sort of hand-to-hand combat almost. You don't see the free-flowing nature of basketball at the college level like you do at the pro level. But I'm not sure, are there enough good shooters at the college level to pull the three-point line out far enough to help the flow of the game, the aesthetics, the scoring? I mean, we've seen scoring go up with some teams in college basketball, but yet that really is predicated on having great three-point shooters. OU scoring went up the year they had Buddy Hield. OU scoring went up the year they had Trae Young. But if you don't have great three-point shooting, you're not going to be scoring the ball like you are when you do. So I don't know that this helps. Cedric, I know that we've seen good basketball in our neck of the woods. We've seen bad. But does this help the NCAA game in your mind?
Well, I live in Austin, so I know you're not asking me about three-point shooting, the team I got to watch every year. Those guys couldn't throw it in the ocean last year. I'm sure when Shaka Smart got that news, he was like, all right, I think I need a drink. I mean, I just don't know that that's going to help the Longhorns because they've struggled mightily. They're one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the Big 12, so they've struggled in that. But overall, I think it will pull some of those guards away from the elbow and make them play a little bit more one-on-one defense. I don't know if there's that many pure shooters in college basketball that's going to move that needle even more. What I hope it does, Jen, and I know I'm old school when I say this, and I'm dating myself here. I hope it ends up to more teams going to the rack and driving it to the hole. And instead of guys running to the three-point circle on fast breaks, maybe they run to the lane, run to the rim to get more layups. So hopefully they will open it up that way because I remember a time when fast breaks ended in dunks and not three-pointers, and I think the game was prettier back then.
You are old school. No, I remember that too. Yeah, and I agree. I think that's the one thing when I saw that news come out, my thought wasn't, man, I hope that expands the three-point shooting range of shooters in the college game. To me, it was all about how does it change the aesthetic of what we see in the paint, what we see inside the three-point line. Are guys going to have a little bit more freedom of movement? I hope so, because I think that that's where, yes, I mean, the NBA, the ball movement around the perimeter, it's great, but a lot of what the college game needs is more guys that are able to shoot, that elbow jumper, but they got to get away from it and figure out some spacing issues. And so often it just becomes, like I said, that hand-to-hand combat, it feels like a little bit inside there. So we'll see. I don't necessarily know that we're going to see an uptick in three-point shooting percentages, but maybe we do see a better product on the floor once those college teams get back out there. It won't be that long before that happens too. But that's it for this week on the Writer's Block. We appreciate you joining us. For Cedric, I'm Jenny. Be sure to join us next week.